because people don't want to be taken for granted. There are people who don't want to pay tax because you said the government is stealing it. There are people who don't want to pay tithe. One man said, except you show me records of what we are using tithe and offering for, I will not pay. Because you are demanding for me to pay tithe and you are giving me a percentage. I also need to know the details, how we are using this. So the man of God said, keep your money. You see, what men do or don't do must not affect you. You must not be a victim of the externalities that surround you. What matters to you is that, are you pleasing God? The desire of God for us, for those of us who were in the Bible study this morning, we were looking at examples of men in the Acts of Apostles. The Acts of Apostles actually is the acts of the Holy Ghost in the apostles. So what made them to behave the way they behave? I didn't want to cause a distraction in my class, so I was just listening. But I think I have an opportunity to ask. When we saw Barnabas step aside for Paul to be in front, and the basis of it is what Christ was saying in John 14 verse 12. He said, the work I do, you will do. Greater work shall you do, because I go to the Father. Yoruba people pray that your children will be greater than you. Is that not the prayer you pray? So how can you come to the point where you are already a leader and then you subjugate yourself? That's the issue. That's why humility is. In order for you to minimize yourself, that the person who is supposed to be your subordinate is exalted. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing. I've seen people who have resigned from work because the people they trained suddenly became the head of department and they needed to answer to the authority of that person. I have seen people who have left church because when they were appointing elders, they have been in that church for 30 years. And suddenly they were not appointed. And then they left because they can't bring themselves to obey the people they counsel when they give their lives to Jesus Christ. But it must not be so with you. What is God expecting for each one of us? God is expecting. Did you read that Acts of Apostles chapter 14 verse 11? I think I've spoken about it in this chapter. What God wants each one of us to be is to be God among people. In Acts of Apostles chapter 14 verse 11, it said, the God has come to live among men. We are supposed to be gods. We are supposed to be Christ. But we have come down to live among men. That is the step of Jesus Christ. That's what brought him to exaltation. That's what Philippians chapter 2 is saying. He said he didn't consider being God a thing to contend with, a thing to argue with, a thing to bragado above. But he lowered himself and he became like man. He became obedient unto death. That means some of you that are used to computer, you minimize an application so that it becomes irrelevant. He said that's the reason why God exalts him. In the eyes of, we look at, you are mummunized, you are a mumu. But before God, you are exalted. Because that's the pathway of Christ. In order for Christ to establish the victory for the church, he went down. He that went down is the one that ascended. And it's very, very important for us to make. I was telling some people, what is it to kneel down and beg your wife if you offend? It doesn't reduce you. But you see, there's an ego in man that's saying, no, I will not take that. There's something in you that wants to prove who you are. Christ never proved. If you read Daily Guide this morning, and you read Luke chapter 9 verse 55, you came to the point where Jesus Christ went to a Samaritan town. Where was Jesus Christ going? The Bible said when the times has fully come, Jesus Christ was heading towards Jerusalem. He was heading towards Jerusalem in order to secure salvation for all, in order to die so that we can be saved. It's at this point that he was refused to pass through the city of Samaria. And John and his brothers say, these people don't know who is passing. And you know that's the question in the mouth of several Nigerians. Do you know who I am? When you quarrel with your husband, you want to say, you don't say, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I know where I pick you from. I know where you are picking from. And that's why young girls this day don't want to lose their father's name. So they are Mrs. Janet Ilesami Johnson with a hyphen. Because you want to still project the old man. There's an evil in our flesh that is rebelling against submission. But you cannot follow the path of Jesus Christ if you have your own mind. You must lose your mind. You must lose your mind. As long as you are having your mind, you can't follow Jesus because your ways will be divergent. So in Luke 9:55, Jesus Christ said, you are telling me, did he have power to rain down fire? Did he? Please answer me. He did. In case he was going to be confused, they gave him an example. They said, this is how Elias called down fire. So there's an antecedent. And many, many times, the problem we have that we cannot conform to the ways of Christ is because we look at antecedents. We say they will take us for granted. We will be vulnerable. Unless you are vulnerable. Vulnerability is part of the persecution of Christianity. If men have not taken you for granted, if you are not vulnerable, what is persecution? Persecution is standing on your right, trampling on your right. And many times you want to react because you are alive. A dead man doesn't react. And Christianity is a call to death. It's a call to death. I'm crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, but not I. I cease to live. The life I live in this flesh, I live by the grace of him who loved me and gave himself to me. So it's no longer I that liveth, but Christ that liveth in me. This is what Paul was saying. He said, for me to live is Christ. So Jesus Christ said, you don't know the manner of spirits you carry. If you know the manner of the spirit that you carry, it's an easy thing to submit to any human authority. You will not contend. And that's why Paul said to the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, he said, you have not grown. When there's still envy and there's still malice among you, when you are struggling to submit to human authority, when you are having clique and you are having class, he said you have not grown. But if you have grown, you will have an understanding of what the man of Christ is. You will see that it is not by contention and the proof of who you are that matters, but who Christ is in you, and that you are pursuing on a daily basis to be like gods among men. And let me say to you that it's not easy. That's the truth of the matter. Even God himself confessed that it's not easy. Ezekiel 20:25. God said, I have chosen you and have put you in a difficult path that is difficult for you to obey. But you see, the call to Christianity is not the call of a personal enablement. It's a call of an enhanced enablement. As you submit to Christ, he helps you to obey. It said, wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, that were difficult for them to obey, and judgment whereby they should live. Because if they do it in their strength, they will fail. So we see Jesus Christ here submitting to human authority. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 13 says, for the Lord's sake, submit all to all human authority. Submit yourself to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake. So what does it mean? It means that if you have a boss in the office, you are older than him, you are more educated than him, particularly in Nigeria where there's no equity. There's no fairness. They bring a small boy that you train. By the time you graduated, he had not entered primary school. Like Wike. So you are speaking like Wike. You are saying, who are you? Before your guy enters school, I don't finish. So you have many Wikes, not only in Abuja, but even in the church. And God is saying, change your name today from Wike. That's the truth of the matter. Because if your mind is renewed, the issue of personal ego that resists you from submission to the will of God, you will get over it. Romans chapter 13 said, all human authority, whether they are king as head of states, or they are superior, or they are your husband, or they are your fathers, spiritual or biological, he said, I, the Lord, ordained them. Even when you think that it's accidental, if the Lord allowed it, it becomes authentic. So I said to that man, I said, if you marry a wrong husband or marry a wrong wife, as long as you have come to the altar and they have said, they have joined your husband and wife, it has become authentic. So just settle down and learn the pathway to success in it. There's nothing like a wrong father. There's nothing like a wrong mother. If God sets somebody over you as a father, as a mother, if you want longevity, you must submit to it. It's the first commandment with a promise. It's not only for longevity, you are sowing a seed so that others will also obey you in the future. Number 3, you are serving the Lord because the Bible says it is good for, it said it's for your good. 1 Peter chapter 2, 17 in the same scripture, it said respect everyone. In NLT, it said respect everyone and love the family of believers. Fear God and respect the king. Part of submission to authority, you know, in Pentecostal, somebody is older than you, maybe because you are more endowed. You just look down on people, you despise people. You don't honor elders. And you forget that one day you will be an elder too. Whether they're in the church, whether they're outside the church. That's what Yoruba people call omoluabi. A child who has character out of birth. Solomon emphasizes in Proverbs 24 verse 21. He said, my child, fear the Lord and fear the king. Don't associate with rebels, because every time you disobey authority that's over you, it's rebellion. You are stepping out of coverage. When a woman disobeys her husband, you are stepping out of coverage. When a church member disobeys the spiritual authority that God has set over them, you are a rebel. You are a rebel. You are stepping out of coverage. It's the same thing at the place of work. So in that Romans chapter 13 verse 2, it said, so anyone, without exception, who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And said they will be punished. So you can see how God extrapolates your submission to human authority to your submission to him. You obey God by faith. You submit to God by faith. So, but he said, if you disobey, maybe you should put this script, okay, you have put it in NLT. So anyone who rebels against authority, you are rebelling against what God has instituted. And you will be punished. Last night, I was speaking with my wife over a child who is going to get married. And the parents were saying, she didn't tell them. And when they confronted her, she said, I'm of age. And she made her choice. And then they are going to send her to me for counseling. And I'm praying about it. Because I'm going to say some things that will be hard for her to hear. You don't get matured over a coverage. When you get over matured under of a coverage, you tear the cover. That's what happens. And you will need to generate your own grace. If a woman in a marital relationship feels superior to the husband, it defies the organogram of God and it defies the authority of God. And it has grown in her heart that the umbrella is torn. She's no undercover. It's also if a man is under spiritual authority and you think that you are too much and you will not take authority. These are spiritual principles. And God has set everything in its orders. Anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against God, who has instituted that authority. And God said that you will not escape, you will be punished. And that's why, brethren, you must labor to live with a clear conscience before God and before man. So that you don't fall victim of this. And you must do it with a clear heart. That same Romans chapter 13 verse 5 NLT, he said, if you submit to them, you must submit to them with a good heart. You must not submit not to avoid punishment, but for you to keep a clear conscience. Many people don't commit sins because they don't want to be caught. Somebody was caught in an adultery. The friend said, how did you do it that you were caught? So it's not that he did it. He said, but how did you do it that you are caught? You are careless. I've been sent to you. But you see, God understands your mind. God doesn't judge your acts. He judges the intention behind it. That's why we all need to settle. As a child, ask for grace to submit to your parents and to honor them. As a wife, ask for grace to submit to your husband and to honor them. As a member of the church, ask for grace. Not out of a feigned love, out of pretense, but because it is obligatory to you as a believer. And your life, the success of your life depends on it. I must not love my wife because she's lovable. I must love my wife because I love God. And all that I'm looking for is to be in the good book of God, because that's where my victory lies. My success as a man depends on how much I love God and how much I'm able to secure his favor. So if loving my wife will be incidental to my securing favor, I better do it for my own good. She may be the beneficiary of it, but the primary beneficiary is myself. So by giving my wife money, I'm not doing her a favor. Please, sister, when we go home, don't ask me for money. I already gave you. Say you preach it and therefore perform. You know. Yeah. So when I care for her, I'm actually caring for myself. Because let me say something to you. Every time you follow the steps of Jesus, you are creating a conducive atmosphere for your prayers to be answered. And when I'm saying prayer, I'm not saying what you kneel down. You are creating conducive atmosphere for your dreams to be fulfilled, so your aspiration to be met, for your goal in life to be met, and for the fulfillment of your life, so that you can maximize this life and you can come before God as a success. That's what it means. So Paul said in Acts of Apostles chapter 24, 16, he said, and here do I exercise myself to have always a clear conscience of offense, void of offense towards God and towards men. This is the discipline in discipleship. This is the discipline in discipleship. If God is saying we should go and make disciples of all nations, our Bible study leader who summarized said, why will God send you out? Why will God trust you? Why will God depend on you and send you out? If he has not found an element of himself inside you. The reason Barnabas and Saul were called gods among men is because they carried the Spirit of God. It looks as if those people made a mistake and want to slaughter oxen for them. But actually, that is your destination. That is your destination. To be like God among men. So you must labor this morning and examine your mind and your conscience. If you're going to follow the steps of Jesus Christ, you must have this discipline, that you will have a clear conscience, a pure mind, and it doesn't bother you. If, you know, there's some people who don't go to church. When they look at the program and they know who is coming to preach, they will say, what will he preach? I know more than him. But sometimes out of the mouths of babes and suckling, God ordains